Would you say that the Boy Meets World theme song is one of the most well-known theme songs?
Yeah. I mean, I love it. I don't know. Yeah, I think that if you sang it just to like, I mean, not that you'd just be randomly singing in a crowd of people, but if you were to do a flash mob and start singing
I'm in
it.
a store and I'm singing.
Yeah, if you went and did that, if you Buddied the Elfed it, yeah, I think that you could, I think people would start singing along.
Okay. I don't know. The Girl Meets World theme song gets stuck in my head more times than not, actually.
It's a catchy one too, but the Boy Meets World one is so iconic.
I don't even know if it's not coming to my mind right now.
It's when this boy meets world, traveling down this road that we call life. It's a great one.
Yeah, you're right. That would have scared people away.
Listen, people that grew up in the 90s and early 2000s, like they would jump into that song actually.
They get it. Okay. All right. Not so much the Girl Meets World one, but it's not even Sabrina Carpenter. It's the main. It's Rowan.
No, it's both. It's both.
It's both?
Yeah. So it's Rowan Blanchard.
Yep. And Sabrina Carpenter.
And Sabrina Carpenter. Yeah.
I wouldn't have known that Sabrina Carpenter's in it.
Very it's almost like faint background.
Interesting. Welcome to another episode of Redo or reDON'T. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Kyle.
What's really interesting is I feel like a lot of the times with these type of sitcoms that came out, would you call it a sitcom? Kind of.
It is, yeah.
That came out in this time frame, when we were young, and shows for us is the main actor or actress, and I'm going to say actress because there's two shows in particular that I'm thinking of. The one we're doing today, which is Girl Meets World. The other one I'm thinking about is Victorious. And think of the main actress. It's Victoria Justice. And in this one, it's Rowan Blanchard. Yes, Sabrina Carpenter plays a huge role, but she is the daughter. It's her problems, and everyone else is just kind of living in her world. So it's interesting because Sabrina Carpenter goes on to be this fantastic singer. And then in Victorious, it was Ariana Grande.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the background sidekicks that end up launching this huge successful singing career.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's like a pattern of that.
Shake It Up on Disney Channel, you could kind of say was, because then at one point Zendaya did have a singing career.
Okay, yeah. But then if you look at, I guess iCarly, Miranda Cosgrove really was the one who was the most known, and she was the main actress in iCarly.
Right.
I guess That's So Raven Simone is the more prominent one who comes out at the end of that. But you're right though. In a few of them, the supporting actor or actress
a good handful
ends up actually having the bigger career.
Yeah.
Both are obviously still the Girl Meets World cast is still so young that they still all have plenty of opportunities to have a career ahead of them. But we're obviously, as Kayla talked about a second ago, we're doing Boy Meets World versus Girl Meets World today. So Boy Meets World, again, if you grew up in the 90s or the 2000s, you definitely know what it is. I would say it was a sitcom. You know what I think is funny, and tell me if I'm wrong or if you saw anything different on anything, but I don't even think it aired originally on Disney Channel.
Girl Meets World?
Boy Meets World.
Oh, Boy Meets World. No, not originally on Disney Channel.
It was on ABC, I think, or something.
Did it ever air on Disney Channel?
Yeah, they at least released it on syndication on Disney Channel because there's a funny story about that I can get to in a little bit. But it was on prime time on Friday nights. I think they had a Friday night special. Obviously, the reason why I don't know it off the top of my head is because we were too young when the show was coming out that I don't remember it airing at first. I've only really ever I've watched every episode of Boy Meets World, but always on reruns and syndication.
You're telling me you weren't watching it in 1994?
Okay, well, when did it end though?
2000s.
Yeah, early 2000s. We were
it was early it was 93 to 2000.
Oh, to 2000 on the dot.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, we were too young to remember when it was airing new episodes, but I believe it was there was a lineup of shows that would air. It was on prime time on weekends. It's just funny. Would that show air on prime time in today's day and age? Obviously, Girl Meets World was on Disney Channel. It may have aired prime time on Disney Channel, but it wasn't airing on ABC.
So then, what's interesting about this one is says the episode of No Guts, No Corey. Off the top of my head, I'm not going to know the plot specifically, but it's an episode of Boy Meets World, and it has a different ending on syndication.
If you, I wish it. Are you able to look up what the plot is and read it to me? Because I'll know it. But that's the story that I was gonna tell. Like the funny story about when they air it on Disney in syndication. They had certain like premises and plots of certain episodes that they deemed too adult, and it was like Corey and Sean would go and be like underage drinking, and they'd get drunk and they'd try to hide it from their parents, and then they'd get caught and they'd learn a life lesson just like they did in every Boy Meets World episode. Or there would be some that would be like the premise would be about them learning about sex or somebody like experimenting or something like that, and they would have to either completely not air that on, like air those type of episodes on Disney at all, or they would heavily edit it.
So it's episode 6 of season 5, and it is called No Guts, No Corey, aired in 1997. Salem the cat uses a time ball to transport Corey back to the 1940s. Corey is shipped off to fight in World War II and must leave Topanga behind. And then what it says on IMDb, so I guess it was taken from the conclusion of TGIF Time Warp. The ending involved once Salem was found by Sabrina and the cast of Boy Meets World returned to their time. So is that pulling from Sabrina the Teenage Witch?
I was just wondering that too, if it was some kind of like weird crossover, because
it could have been a crossover, and then Disney didn't own Sabrina the Teenage Witch, so then maybe that's why they could have had to change it.
But Sabrina the Teenage Witch, I believe, like that makes sense. TGIF was the lineup that would air on prime time on like ABC.
Oh, okay.
So Sabrina the Teenage Witch must have been another one that was in that like lineup. So they might have done some kind of like crossover.
Interesting.
That's again, I just said I watched every episode, and that's the one that like I can't really remember it off the top of my head. Again, even if I did, they apparently changed the ending. So
it's just like Friends. You know, I can say that I've probably seen every single episode of Friends, but then there's still some off the top of my head.
That you couldn't just pull.
There's so many.
Yeah, you couldn't pull from as well as others that you could probably recite.
Right.
But Boy Meets World, again, I watched most of it. I've watched all of it actually in reruns. I didn't watch any of it like while it was airing. Again, I was too young, but there was a time I'd come home after school and I'd watch it, or it would be on the weekends in the morning at like 9 a.m. And that would be the thing I would watch with like breakfast. It was such a pivotal part of my childhood. And I think that people who are slightly older than us probably were the same, because they did grow up in that, like where it was coming on new episodes every week. And I just think that like that show, Saved by the Bell, a little bit of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, like that time frame had some of the best TV shows airing. What I like about those shows that I just mentioned is that they are for kids, but also can be like good for adults too.
Right. Okay. I was gonna throw Friends in the mix, but I guess that one's not for kids.
Yeah, that's not really for kids. But like those shows right there, all can be watched by both and enjoyed by both, and especially like Boy Meets World, I think what's something that it does so well is its comedy is so good for like kids and adults, and the life lessons. Like the life lessons are deep, you know, and like when I have kids, I'm gonna have them sit down and watch Boy Meets World and be like, this could teach you life lessons better than I ever could. Just listen to whatever Mr. Feeney's saying.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
It just, you know, when I watch it now, I watch Boy Meets World reruns and I'm like, holy crap, that was deep, you know? Like,
would you say that Girl Meets World has the same effect? Because I ask because recently I've been seeing clips of Girl Meets World on my TikTok feed, and I think our generation was a little bit past Girl Meets World. I still watched it live on Disney Channel, but I held on to Disney Channel for dear life because
way longer than anybody else did.
I didn't want to stop watching it, and because Girl Meets World was kind of it is a remake, not kind of, but it wasn't necessarily so Disney coded that it made it seem like it was for little kids. So even though we were on the older side, I still enjoyed it. Yep. But would you say that Girl Meets World has the same thing? Because recently clips, like I was saying, have been popping up on my TikTok feed. And then there's people in the comments being like, I never knew that these were the kind of life lessons and things that they talked about. They're like, I would have given it a chance had I known that it was a little bit more deep than your stereotypical Disney show.
So it definitely is. So here, I guess, is kind of like my thoughts on the show, on Girl Meets World. So Girl Meets World, when did it air? 2014, correct?
Yeah, through
aired
2017.
2014 to 2017.
So that's like 14, high school and college. I was still watching Disney Channel.
Yeah, that's fine.
By the way.
No, listen. So 2014, 14 years had passed since the original Boy Meets World show had ended, but brings back the main character. It brings back everybody from Boy Meets World at
Pretty
some
much.
point or another. At some point or another, but brings back Ben Savage to play Corey Matthews. He's now, it's unfortunately the exact plot that we always make fun of on this show is just like now the main characters are older and their kids are going through the same lifestyle.
Right.
But Danielle Fishel comes back to be Topanga, his wife, and they're living in New York now instead of Pennsylvania. And they have kids, and the kids go through the exact same, or not the exact same where it's a carbon copy, but they go through their own problems as kids and have to figure out, how cruel life can be and how do they get through it. And they bring back the same writer that wrote from the original movie, the original show, Michael Jacobs.
Yep.
And that is why I think that it definitely does work. They bring back
Both, actually.
it was
Michael
Jacobs
Jacobs and April Kelly.
April Kelly, that's right.
Both
That's
of
right.
them come back.
I knew that there was a duo and I just couldn't think. But yeah, Michael Jacobs and April Kelly, they bring back those same writers. And that's why I feel like it doesn't deviate so much that it's like, well, now what is this? It's like, no, it still feels like Boy Meets World. The life lessons aren't, making your eyes roll and too childish like, is now the consensus on TikTok. Because the same people who wrote the first 7 seasons of Boy Meets World, like, I think stayed true to that show. They could easily get right back into their writing habits and their writing style for the first show just 14 years later. And I think that that's a big part of it. If they didn't bring back those same writers and they were bringing back somebody else who had nothing to do with it, but it was just like, hey, let's, I really liked Boy Meets World. Now I want to make a continuation of it. Then it would stray from its original self.
Right.
But because they bring back as many people as they did, it really stays along the same path that it started back in the first show. So it definitely, the life lessons, to answer your questions, the life lessons are still hard hitting and real. And you're like, that is so well said and such a good point and like very valuable information to be teaching little kids that are watching this on Disney Channel. The comedy still works, which is why I was about to say, so you watched it when it first came out and you felt like I'm a little too old to be watching Disney Channel. Me and my brother, who loved Boy Meets World and again could quote it, had stopped watching Disney Channel for a long time when this one came out. But then we saw like an ad for it and we were like, that's the one thing that's gonna, like, if there's one show we would come back for to see how it continues, it would be Boy Meets World and now Girl Meets World. So then we would only ever watch Disney Channel. Like, it wasn't like we were watching the weekly lineup there, because again, it did get childish.
Sure.
But then, we were like, we wanted to watch Girl Meets World, and we were watching it every week because we were like, it is still funny.
Right.
It is like the moments that get deep or like sad or anything, you're not rolling your eyes like this is so corny. You're like, it's actually well done, right, especially for a Disney show. Because
I guess there was one episode where they touch upon God and religion, and then that one came up in my TikTok feed, and people were like, that's bold of Disney to do one of the episodes, but it just must have been a plot and a continuation from maybe something from Boy Meets World, or they've just been incorporating anything.
So something I remember from Boy Meets World is that there was they basically were like, look, all of these characters are essentially like Christian. And
really? Okay, then that makes perfect sense.
It wasn't so much where it was like throwing religion into your face, but there would be times where like the characters would be praying to God and then would get what they prayed for. And it's like very much so underlying of like, okay, well then therefore, praying has its benefits.
Right, and
it's
they continue that in Girl Meets World too.
Yeah, they do. And, it is very much so trying to, not trying in a really bad way of like throwing it in your face, but they are not trying to be like, believe in what you want. They're very much so like, be like, you should believe in God.
And they were fully defending that in Girl Meets World too. It was one of those situations where I think his argument was, do you believe in air? And Farkle was like, well, yeah, you breathe it in. Farkle is like the sciencey, nerdy kind of kid in Girl Meets World.
Yeah, he was it's Minkus's son, and yes. Minkus was the same in Boy Meets World.
Exactly. Copy and paste.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, of course I believe in air. We breathe in it, and then goes into this whole scientific explanation. And then Corey Matthews is like, well, you don't see air. You don't see God. Like, that was the argument that they were making in Girl Meets World. And I just remember like reading these comments and people were like, what? That's
Yeah.
a thing? They're doing that on Disney Channel?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that's because Michael Jacobs and April Kelly did not want to stray from what their values were when they were writing the first one.
Yeah.
You know, they were like, hey, yeah, look, if you want us to, if you're green lighting us to write this series, yeah, the world's changed, but like, if we're gonna write that all of this is happening in a fictional world, and we're still in the same, like, it's still the Matthews family, and Corey Matthews is still going to have the same values as an adult as he had when he was a teenager.
Right.
So you can't now all of a sudden make it seem like Corey, who was, a Christian in the first series, is now going to, like,
He's Jewish now.
renounce. Yeah, or he's going to renounce religion
Right.
in Girl Meets World.
I can see how they just maybe could have avoided it altogether.
They could have, but that's
But-
not what they're like. They always
Yeah.
tackled, again, underage drinking, and they tackled, like, having a broken home versus the perfect American family. Like, Sean Hunter had the broken home,
Right.
and his struggles that he went through, and how he needed the Matthews family to get him through because they were like the ideal American family.
And then the same thing in Girl Meets World. It's Sabrina Carpenter.
Yeah,
It's
Maya.
her, Maya. Sure, right. Yeah, Sabrina Carpenter is the actress, but she's the broken home. And in it, I don't believe, if I remember correctly, her father was never involved. She talked about her mom a lot, but her mom didn't seem to be the best.
The father comes back for one episode and tries to get back into her life, and Maya's like, no, I appreciate that you're trying to make amends, but
that.
like like my mom made me who I am.
Yes.
We did
Yep.
just fine without you,
I
type of
remember
thing.
that. Yep. So then, to that point, though, she's the broken home in this one, and the Matthews family is still the perfect dream family.
Yeah. They still are. They definitely
They still are, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I mean, Topanga's now like the most successful lawyer in New York.
Yeah.
Corey takes over the teacher role exactly as Mr. Feeney. Like, it again, everybody in this new Girl Meets World series, it like resembles to a T some character from the first one. Corey's character now is like Mr. Feeney, and his daughter Riley is now like him. And Maya, played by Sabrina Carpenter, is like Sean, and everybody has their own very similar like character in the new series from the first. But again, let's talk about how many people they bring back. They bring back Mr. Feeney for a few episodes here and there. I mean, William Daniels, who plays him, is now like in his late 90s, or he's like at least 90. So they bring him back, but only in like a limited role.
They bring Ryder Strong.
Ryder Strong, who plays
Yep.
Sean, comes back and actually has like a heavy role in it. And, they're like, oh, it's Uncle Sean, because obviously they were so close. But Ryder Strong comes back like with a lot of screen time over the course of like 3 seasons. Mr. and Mrs. Matthews from Boy Meets World they bring back. They bring back Will Friedle, who plays Eric. Corey's brother comes back. They really get everybody. I mean, even in like the finale, they had 2 different actresses play Corey's sister Morgan in the first one because it was like different ages. Mm-hmm. And they bring back both actresses who played her, who, they haven't probably had an acting role since then.
Yeah.
And now
Probably
it's been 20 years or whatever. They really reached out. I mean, Matt Lawrence came back, who plays Jack in the older years of Boy Meets World when they're in like college. They really must have reached out to every single person who had a role in Boy Meets World and was like, anybody who wants to come back can.
Right. Why not, though?
Yeah.
In some way, I mean, when it's the same writers, kind of what your point has been, but when they're the same writers, it's naturally just going to have a lot more respect for a reboot and a better light shed on it. And if the actors are like, to get to work with these guys again, like, yeah, let's do it. And it's just a happy memory, I'm sure.
Which is cool, and that's when I like it when people come back for these type of things. But, when people come back either just because it's for money reasons, because, now, like, again, we always go back to the Top Gun example, but like Tom Cruise, did things since Top Gun 1, right? Like, he had been making top box office films in the interim between Top Gun 1 and Top Gun 2. Mm-hmm. So they needed to throw a lot of money at him probably to get him to come back. Unless it was just, hey, the script is great and I would like to revisit Maverick. But
to that, though, I think that's a great example of someone who did not need to come back but wanted to come back. To your point, he has all these fantastic accolades. He does not need another.
Yeah.
He could have just been like, I've had my time. Did they throw a lot of money at him? Sure, I bet.
Right.
But still, I think he still could have said no.
Yeah, I wanted to. But my thing with this one though is like none of those actors from Boy Meets World really went on to do anything. I guarantee you all of them, if they walk down the street, people will recognize them from Boy Meets World.
It's also a Disney Channel series. You know they're not getting paid too much.
Yeah, but the point is like they weren't doing so much that they were like, oh, I don't need to come back for Girl Meets World. They were probably thinking like, yeah, I get screen time again. I'm going to be on TV again. You know, they probably also all have kids now. It is an incentive for them to come back and be on a Disney Channel show.
Time to pay for college.
Yeah, well, no, I wasn't even talking about that. I was just talking about like, you know, the kids get to watch them on TV
right
now, but like whether it's that reason or for whatever, it's an easier yes to come back to a show like that than it is for Tom Cruise to come back for Top Gun when he's been making $1 million movies every year since.
Yeah, I guess.
So don't get me wrong, I'm glad that they did. Clearly it means that nobody felt like they were too big to come back for it or that the show was beneath them. They all were excited to come back, and I'm glad that's awesome. And then for me watching it, I was like, this is so cool. They're bringing Jack back. Matt Lawrence is coming back. And they work it in such a way where it's like, you know, we really need Eric to come back to teach Riley and Maya things that he taught me in Boy Meets World, you know. They do it in the right way. So it's not just to be like, oh, look. It's like, no, they kind of work it in such a way where it doesn't feel so out of place.
It's also a type of show that just has a lot of characters in and out. Mm-hmm. So you easily could, you know, if someone randomly shows up, it's just one of those shows that it kind of works. No matter how you write it in. It's not like it is a specific movie, you know, and in a set amount of time, you're just throwing in all these characters. Over the course of 3 seasons, you can sprinkle in people here and there, and it just fits.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the school setting. I mean, they bring back Mr. Turner, who was a teacher in Boy Meets World, and they bring him back. He's now the superintendent of the school where Corey teaches at. So it's like in the school setting.
There's a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, exactly. There definitely is.
Especially because now the kids, like it shows, now you have the parents that are now having the kids in the high school and stuff like that's another easy way there to bring
comes back as the dad of Farkle. They bring him in, you know. So it didn't feel out of place, which is why the cameos and the callbacks all worked in a like fluid way.
Overall, it worked. I mean, obviously, Boy Meets World is always going to have great rankings and better numbers, but still, Girl Meets World held its own. 7.1 out of 10.
Oh, really? Okay. So read the reviews.
Girl Meets World had a 7.1 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes, it had an 86%. That's pretty good. And Boy Meets World on IMDb, it had an 8.1 out of 10 and then a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes.
91%. That's more accurate. That's more like
yeah, but 86 for a Disney Channel show.
No, that is really good too.
That's good.
No, they both are. Right. You know, because 100%. I'm telling you, if you're watching this right now and you're thinking like, I'm not going to go back and watch a Disney Channel kids show. If you liked Boy Meets World, you are 100% going to like Girl Meets World.
Yeah, it really goes beyond a Disney Channel show. It doesn't have the reputation of a Disney show at all. No,
you're not going to roll your eyes and be like, this is corny. You're not going to be like, this is so childish. If you liked Boy Meets World, you are 100% going to... If you liked Boy Meets World back when, you know, in the 90s or 2000s, and you're now 20 or 30, you are going to like Girl Meets World if you watched it.
Yeah, especially if you, I don't know, maybe have kids. If you're listening and you have kids... It's something cute that you could also just watch with them.
Yeah, first of all, you should sit down your kids and make them watch Boy Meets World. Okay. And then go right into Girl Meets World.
Yeah, straight through.
Yeah. So I'm glad that those did get the good ratings. I mean, I'll give it my own rating. Definitely a redo. I mean, one of the easiest redos I probably had to give on this podcast. Yeah.
And you know why? I think it's because you do love Boy Meets World so much.
Oh, yeah. That's one of my favorite shows.
Right.
And then Girl Meets World, like you said, holds its own in comparison. It's not, you know, everybody knows that my worry with these reboots is like, is it going to ruin the legacy of the first one? And it's like, no, this was one where it was like, it really did bring it back, that feeling of watching the first series. It was like, this is really just could be a continuation.
Right.
You know?
I agree. I would give it the redo as well. I liked it. I've seen more of Girl Meets World than I have of Boy Meets World. But it just still, I mean, the fact is the reboot, and if we like the reboot or not, and I've loved Girl Meets World.
One of them has 7 seasons and like 22 episodes. One of them's a little bit more of a commitment. Girl Meets World's a little bit easier to get through.
And I did watch that one live. I don't think at the end of high school, beginning of college, that age group is typically still watching Disney Channel. But I was, because that show was great.
That show was one that I definitely don't blame you for, yeah.
I would say that was probably the last good Disney Channel show.
I think so too.
How sad is that? I don't even watch, obviously I don't watch Disney Channel now, and my siblings are far past that, but there's nothing good on anymore.
We're going to have to check to see if Raven's home, because it has to be on the podcast. We're going to have to do Raven's home.
It does have to be, yeah, and I guess I've heard good things about that one too.
All right, we'll give that one
Did that air
a
on
watch.
Disney?
Yeah. It still airs on Disney Channel, new episodes.
On Disney Channel. Oh, huh.
Yeah.
I figured that was just a Disney Plus thing.
No, that was on Disney Channel.
I don't watch it. I don't like Raven-Symoné, but regardless.
Did you like That's So Raven?
Yeah, back then I
liked
did.
That's So Raven.
But I did too. It wasn't my favorite.
Yeah.
Around that time, it was more Lizzie McGuire for me.
Lizzie McGuire, we should talk about in the next segment.
And the next segment?
Yeah. I want to talk about her.
Why? Oh, next segment. Not okay. Yeah, no, I'm talking. Just wait.
Okay.
I'm talking about it.
Okay.
Yeah. I got my end of the Disney Channel discussion is not over yet.
Okay, sounds good. So redos from both of us.
Easily, yeah.
Necessary. I mean, yeah. It's like I said, it's a continuation. Even if the lessons are some of the same ones that they touched upon in the first one, it first of all definitely like. If that's what it's going to take for kids to learn these lessons, like if they're not going to go back and watch the show from 1990s because it's a little outdated, but they would watch it because it's now on Disney Channel,
right.
It's still valuable life lessons and like characters that are good role models for people to like, for kids to see and try to emulate.
Right.
And then for us, I already said earlier, it did bring back that feeling of watching the first one. It felt like there were new episodes of Boy Meets World,
right?
You know, and it
then
kind of was just like
all
that.
These years.
Right. So I would say necessary because of the way that they pull it off.
Yeah, no, I would kind of agree. I mean, I think you could always say no to that question. Is it necessary? Because Boy Meets World did so well. Why try to replicate it? But yeah, I think it was. I think it held its own, but it also brought back a lot of memories.
Mm-hmm.
So why not? It was a new generation exposed to Boy Meets World.
Exactly.
And that's never a bad thing.
Right.
Can I continue to talk about Disney Channel?
Sure thing.
Okay.
So last segment, what are you watching? What do you got going on in the world?
Kyle told me I'm not allowed to talk about The Crown anymore, so I have new and exciting things to talk about this time, and it's not The Crown, although I'm still watching it. There's been a lot in the news recently with new reboots, and there's quite a few that I have here. 3 in particular. There's kind of 2 that are questionable. A Polar Express 2. That was talked about, can't confirm, can't deny. There's allegedly a Polar Express 2
I've seen it from
coming.
two different websites though.
Okay, still. Can't confirm or deny.
Okay.
Allegedly, there's also a Ratatouille 2.
That one I'm not sure.
Ratatouille.
Oh, I get
is how they spin it.
Don't say you heard it here first on this podcast. That one we're not so sure.
You heard it
about.
here first, allegedly.
Yeah.
Keywords. They can't sue us if you use allegedly.
Right.
Maybe they can. But then another one that's even bigger in my eyes than all of this is a Wizards of Waverly Place reboot.
This one confirmed.
This one confirmed. This
Go
one,
tell all
Selena
your friends.
Gomez. Let's talk about this. Selena Gomez posted it on her story that she's so excited for this one. We were talking about this. So she is coming back for one season, and I'll get to the plot in a second. She's coming back for one episode, but she's the executive producer.
On the entire show, she's the executive producer.
Yep.
You know what that means, though? You just throw your name on it, and then people just kind of like...
Don't discredit Selena Gomez like that. Whoa.
You think she's going to be on set every day? She's as busy as it is, and she's going to be on set every day.
She doesn't do much anymore. I love her with all my heart.
So she has Only Murderers in the Building, and then she says she's working on another album.
No.
She said she got one more album in her, and then she's going to...
done?
Yeah.
Easy work. I don't know. I think she'll be there a lot. I think this is probably so near and dear to her heart that if your name is on it, you want it done well and you want it done right. And she knows what's best than anybody. But there is that reboot that is coming out. It's confirmed by all of them. And I'll talk about the plot because it is kind of interesting and it brings back all of them in a way. But Alex, who's played by, of course, the one and only, the amazing Selena Gomez, how it ended, how Wizards of Waverly Place ended, was her becoming the family wizard. And now the sequel is set to follow her brother, Justin, played by David Henry, of course, plus his family, with Selena Gomez making an appearance. How that appearance will be made is still to be determined. But the synopsis was kind of, it picks up after a mysterious incident at WizTech, which, if you remember, WizTech was kind of like the school that they went to. It was like the Hogwarts of this wizard's realm, where adult Justin Russo, of course, like I said, played by David Henry, has left his wizard powers behind him, opting for a normal human life with his wife and 2 sons. He gets a surprise when a powerful young wizard in need of training shows up at his door, and Justin must embrace his past to ensure the future of the wizard world. So that is going to be the plot of the reboot.
So all 3 of those, if they all do get made, I mean, Wizards of Waverly Place will be getting made, but all 3 of those are going to be all fit for the podcast, you know, whether we agree with which ones should be made and which ones shouldn't be. I know you're excited about Wizards of Waverly Place. I kind of am too, if they can pull it
really
off.
Excited about that one.
Polar Express 2, really unnecessary, you know?
Yeah.
But it just goes to
Ratatouille
show
2
the reboot era, you know?
Yeah, I don't know where you would take Ratatouille.
Well,
in the second
Ratatouille,
one.
if they make it, I wonder if it's because of the success of their new Disney ride. You know, it could be like if people love that. I mean, obviously people love the movie, but
you can't change the ride now to fit.
No, I'm just saying
episode
maybe
2.
it's getting like a resurgence of its fan base, you know, it's in the limelight again. So now they're capitalizing on making a second. But
maybe. And then the last thing that I just want to touch upon was there was supposed to be a Lizzie McGuire reboot. That one got canceled. It got scrapped by Disney. And now the original writer of it is coming out and explaining what the plot would be, because us Lizzie McGuire fans have a lot of questions. One of them being, did Lizzie and Gordo end up together in the end, which was always the end game, and just what the plot would have been. So Jonathan Hurwitz was going to be the writer on it, and he finally, in an interview, shared the storyline. And he believes that it was scrapped from Disney because he believes Disney wasn't comfortable with it, which makes sense. And I will tell you why, because it's not Disney Channel at all.
Oh, okay.
It would have been completely different. We finally get the answers if Gordo and Lizzie end up together. Lizzie meets up with Gordo, who she's been keeping in touch with over text, I guess you could kind of say. They haven't been together. But Lizzie has been living in New York. Lizzie's been living there as an interior designer, and she's dating this very, very handsome chef, as they say. She ends up finding out that he's been cheating on her with her best friend. Undetermined if Miranda is said best friend.
Oh, okay.
I doubt it, but wouldn't that be a twist? That's when she goes back to her childhood home in California from the original series, where animated Lizzie has been there waiting for her.
Oh,
so they even would have brought back the
nice.
cartoon, which makes it even more sad that we just lost out on that. Lizzie meets up with Gordo, who she's been kind of keeping in touch with over text over the years on occasion. They meet up, and Gordo reveals that he's engaged to a woman. She's pregnant, and they're really happy. So there was no Lizzie and Gordo. That was not going to be a thing. They wouldn't have, Second episode is when you figure all of that out. She's getting a message from her childhood crush, Ethan Kraft. Ethan Kraft was coming back, which led into the third episode storyline that unfortunately was written but never got filmed. This is what he believes that Disney was not too keen on. Episode 3 wasn't filmed, but the script was for it. Lizzie wakes up in Ethan's bed in his water polo t-shirt. Animated Lizzie pops up, and she has a checklist, a to-do list of things, and Ethan is on the list, and she checks it off. He goes, the writer, I think she says something like, checked that box, pauses for dramatic effect, and then goes, twice. So it would have been Lizzie and Ethan Kraft kind of in the end, but I can totally see how Disney was like, we are not promoting sex on our channel.
Yeah. It might have been, put that one on ABC at 8 p.m. on a Friday. And,
that's fine.
kind of like,
fine.
yeah, but kind of like Boy
That's
Meets the World was.
That's
But
such a missed opportunity, because that would have been such a good plot.
Here's my take on it. My take is that it is still going to get made.
I mean, it's been scrapped. Like, it's canceled.
I know, but Paramount Plus picked up Zoe 102, not Nickelodeon. You know what I mean? They'll put it on maybe a streaming, put it on Disney Plus and make it TV 14. Instead of, I think it's done, especially because of this resurgence right now from this writer, he's bringing it back into the spotlight and he's trying to get it made. He's trying to get the fans to like rally behind him and be like, oh, that sounds so good. We got Kayla right here who's exactly doing that, being like, oh my God, that's so good. So I think that this is all part of a ploy trying to get fans to rally enough behind it that some streaming service or some other channel will realize how much of an opportunity it is for them and somebody will pick it up. That is still my theory. I think that they are going to get people to sign on for it.
Maybe. So it was supposed to be on Disney Plus, and Disney Plus was the one that turned it down.
Okay, then they'll put it on Paramount Plus or something like that.
I mean, that's even more so. You can air more on streaming services than
just make it TV-14 if that's the case. If it's more adult now, but Zoe 102 did the exact same thing. Now it's a little bit more adult. They're swearing on Zoe 102. They didn't put it on Nickelodeon. They put it on Paramount Plus. They'll do the same thing with Lizzie McGuire.
I don't know. I think Disney has such more of a hold on Lizzie McGuire than.
I just think that they're going to see that the fans are rallying and they're going to try to please the fans.
Maybe. It's been 4 years in the making, though, and this was supposed to be like a 2020 thing. And we've all wanted it. We've all wanted it for 4 years. So because of that, I think it would have been picked up by now. And because it's always been in the talks, and they've promoted it, and they started filming it, and now it's been 4 years.
This is new. This writer leaking the plot is new to this week, so it could just be the resurgence that it needs. I
hope so.
Yeah, I think it will. I think that it's going to get picked up. The last thing real quick that I'm watching, or I guess not that I'm watching, but is happening in the world right now, is True Detective, which is a show that I used to watch all the time even when it was first coming out. It's an HBO show. It's a limited series, I guess it is. You know what I mean? Like, it's one season doesn't feed off the other. It has new characters each time, takes place in a different time, and whatever. So it was really good. It was like a cop thriller. It was really scary at times. It had really good mystery, and then the cops would be, solving the murders in really interesting ways. And they had 3 seasons, and the first season's definitely the best. Nobody disagrees with that. Then people will argue if the second and the third one weren't as good. But then it was supposed to be done after the third. Even when they came out with the third, they weren't sure if they were going to come out with a third season. They had 3, and then it was supposed to be done. I think everybody kind of was under the impression that it was going to be 3 seasons and then done. And now it just found out recently, not to HBO, but to HBO Max, just this past week, out came the 4th season. It was the first episode of the 4th season, starring like Jodie Foster, and again, obviously it would be a new cast. But the writer for the first 3 seasons doesn't come back. It's a completely new like writing crew for the 4th season. So I watched the trailer, and I don't know, maybe I'll wait and see if it gets like the reception from the viewers, the same kind of reception as the first 3 seasons. But the fact that they don't bring back that writer makes me feel like kind of like what Girl Meets World did to Boy Meets World correctly is it stayed the same because they had the same writers on it. They really didn't stray. I feel like this one is going to stray pretty far from the first 3 seasons. It's just what it looks like to me. So I think I'm not going to jump on that wagon yet. I'm going to see if it I'm going to let the reviews come in first and then kind of gauge about whether or not it sounds like, hey, if you like the first 3 seasons, you'll like the 4th, then I'll watch it. Or if people are like, oh man, I don't want it to ruin the first 3 seasons. So I'm going to have to test the waters with it a little bit.
See what other people think first.
Yeah. See if it sounds like it's worth going back for it, because I don't want it to ruin my opinion of the first 3 and have it like tarnish it. So
right. That makes sense.
Yeah, we'll have to wait for that one. But for all of the titles that you talked about in this segment, if they get made, we will talk about them on the podcast in the future.
100%.
Yeah.
Expect a Wizards one whenever it happens, because that was one of my favorite shows as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, that one was a good one. I'll be down for that one too.
Then they got a movie, and it was amazing.
Yeah, so I like Boy Meets World the same way that you like Wizards of Waverly Place. So
yeah, it'll be good.
Yeah, so stay tuned for those.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Thanks.